topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining in again today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business Radio on W4CY.com and now Winning Business TV, live streaming on Talk4TV.com, as well as Facebook, Winning Business Radio, etc. The mission of this show, as regular listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices, the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and certainly to be inspired by the successes of others. But, virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives or careers. It's not always perfect, right? So I always say, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. Today, my guest is Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson, author, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of Jerrund Wilkerson Executive Coaching. Here's his bio. Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson is an author, leadership coach, and speaker. Jerrund's coaching focuses on healthcare professionals at a one-to-one level, including those in the C-suite. Those are CEOs, COOs, and vice presidents of hospitals, nursing homes, clinics, and those at the practitioner levels, physicians, dentists, nurses, and pharmacists. Jerrund has over 30 years of successful leadership and coaching experience as a senior business executive. He earned his stripes in the corporate world, overseeing as many as 1,500 employees while serving in a series of key positions, such as National Director of Sales, Business Unit Director, and Southeast Regional Sales Manager with Merck & Company, United Healthcare, and Watson Pharma, now Actavis. His teams were consistently in the top 10% on a national level year over year during his tenure. In addition to the ongoing leadership and management training received in corporate assignments, Jerrund has supplemented his expertise as a member of the John Maxwell team, where he's certified as a professional certified coach for executive leadership and personal growth coach and speaker. He's coached thousands, helping them increase their impact in their respective areas and in their health. To remain relevant in healthcare, Jerrund has active licenses as a pharmacist in the states of Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas. He earned his MBA with a focus on leadership from the University of Phoenix and earned his pharmacy degree from the University of Florida. Additionally, Jerrund earned executive leadership and management certificates from the following universities: Harvard University, Leadership and Strategy; University of Pennsylvania's Wharton Business School, Leading Organizational Change; UCLA's Anderson School of Management, Medical Leadership Marketing; Cornell University, Executive Leadership and Management; and USC, Management Development and Leadership. Hear a theme there? Some of Jerrund's larger corporate clients include Cardinal Health, Ethica Health and Rehabilitation Centers, McKesson Corporation, Ambient Health, Merck, Grady Hospital, Emory Hospital, United Healthcare, Humana, Blue Cross Blue Shield, PACE, National Medical Association, Kaiser Permanente, University of Florida, and University of Georgia. He has hundreds of smaller healthcare businesses and associated executives, which he works with on a one-to-one basis. He's the author of What Sales Leaders Do, The 22 Habits of an Effective Salesperson. He resides in Roswell, Georgia, is the 46-year husband to Connie, the dad of 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Jerrund, welcome to Winning Business Radio and TV.
Thank you, Kevin. It is nice to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure for me.
And who's that person that you were saying about?
You don't know how many times people say that. Wow, that's a lot. Who is that guy? So tell us briefly about Connie, and I'll ask about your kids and grandkids.
Well, Connie is the rudder, and quite frankly, even though we kid about this, 46 years and even probably 10 or 12 years before we actually got married. So we've been around each other for a long time, but 46 years together. And she reminds me that while I might be the head at times, she's the neck.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
but she helps keep me in line and
Mm.
helps me see things that I don't see. Or sometimes, as you might know, Kevin, as a leader yourself, we're sometimes expected to be able to see around corners. Well, she helps me slow down as I look around the corners a little
Very
bit,
good.
do things. And we are fortunate to have 3 adult children.
Hmm.
And they're all successful in their own right. Our oldest is a VP of marketing for an international firm. Our middle daughter has her own um, baking business.
Oh, cool.
Uh, she sells cookies and things
Hmm.
online because she prefers to, and I applaud this. She prefers to be a mom
Hmm.
of her 2 children and our 2 lovely grandkids. So we
Yes.
applaud that. And then, of course, our son. He's an entrepreneur. He did not want to follow his dad's corporate pieces. So he's got his hands in about 3 or 4 different things. The most recent is these NFTs.
Yes. Yeah.
And some of this other stuff about the metaverse and stuff that I don't even understand. And I'm not so sure I really want to, but I just say, well, have fun. And he'll use me every now and then. I just say, don't come to me when you're in trouble. Come to me a little bit before because I'm not a magician. But
Excellent.
that's it.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm just making an adjustment here. So you grew up in the Southeast in Florida, right?
Yes, I did.
What were your early interests, or at least some of them?
Well, interestingly, my biggest and earliest interest, Kevin, was music.
Hmm.
And even here you can't see it, but I've got 2 or 3 guitars in front of me, and I've got a sax behind me here.
Nice.
My earliest interest starting in 9th grade was music and started off with trumpet, but it didn't work too well for here. So the band director said, why don't you try saxophone? So that's really kind of how that all progressed and went and had created bands in high school. And my wife and I were talking about this not too long ago that people actually paid to hear us play. Uh, which I can't. And somebody back in those days, it was so far back, but somebody had a recording of a few of the tunes, and quite frankly, Kevin, they didn't sound so bad, but but it was still hard to believe that people would pay 50 cents a head to come in to hear us play.
That's funny.
So that was funny. And then went on to college, and I was a music
Mm.
major in college. Um, but my dad helped promote me to do a lot of music because I didn't appreciate what he was trying
Yeah.
to do, but it was about
Yeah.
teaching leadership because I created the band, helped the members in the band do what they needed to do and learn some of the stuff and then taught them. And I remember getting a little frustrated. He said, no, you can't quit. And I thought,
Good for him.
well, yeah, I didn't understand then. I said, well, it's my band. He said, it doesn't matter. You can't quit. And that helped with a mindset,
Mm.
I guess, that has permeated so much. And then eventually he said, okay, now you want to do music. You're going to have a family one day, right? Yeah. Well, how do you think that might work with you traveling all over the place? Now, he never told me not to do it, but
Right.
he would ask
Right.
me questions. How would that work? And eventually I said, well, I won't travel. I'll just be a studio musician. He said, well, you're going to either move to New York or California. How do you think that'll work for you? So eventually it helped me to see that maybe something more stable might be better. And that's how I ended up focusing on pharmacy because a guy in our small town, I really liked how he treated the customers, the patients. And I thought, I think that would be a good thing to do. So that's how I got into the pharmacy side from the music side. But I still do music, written a lot of things, and I still am planning on doing some things later this month to regenerate, not for me to do it, but to be a producer for some other
Oh,
younger
nice.
folks who
Love
want
it.
to play into that arena.
Love it. That's a great outlet. I still sing and play.
Do you?
Trumpet, in fact, yeah.
Oh,
We'll talk more.
then we need to talk more. Maybe if off site here, but I have my alto behind me to remind me that every now and then I need to put this thing up and do something.
Yes.
I've got a studio in the basement, but I don't go down there as much. So
Yeah.
this is a prompter based on my wife's prompting anyway.
Very nice. All right. So here's the next question. The pharmacy degree, undergrad, right? I mean, excuse me, was your undergrad pharmacy
Well,
or was it music? And then your grad degree is
well,
pharmacy, right?
it's a mixed bag, and I'll try to explain
Yeah.
it this way. Um, I switched from music to pharmacy. And you can do pharmacy. Well, it's a 5 or 6 year program. And I always believe in trying to find the not the longest path. Some people major in biology or chemistry and then they go into pharmacy school. I found out that you could do 2 years of prerequisite and then get in. So that's kind of what I did. So the right now there's different ways of looking at pharmacy. There's PharmDs. That's a typical 6 year program. There are other areas within pharmacy. So I've got a bachelor's, if you will, in pharmacy. And then I've taken a number of state exams, and one of those exams highlight the doctor of pharmacy side, and that's the state of Arkansas. So I typically go by that designation.
Great. When we're fast forwarding a little bit, I want to get into your career path a little bit in a few minutes, but when and why did you decide to pursue the MBA? That was later on.
Yeah. I began to realize that, well, I had two objectives. One had to do with the desire to teach, to make a difference. And I think one of the things that I'm learning about myself, I have learned, is I enjoy helping other people be successful. And while I was doing my business things with Merck, I realized that I enjoyed not so much training, although I had a training budget and I didn't want to, but I enjoyed teaching and helping. And then I thought, well, one of the nice things, and maybe one of the things I can do to make a difference on that side is to teach at a college level. Well, in order to be able to teach it at a college level, you needed an MBA. Oh, you did master's at least. And I also found that MBAs were things that corporate valued.
Yes.
So we had a tuition reimbursement plan. And I mentioned to you earlier about the music side, Kevin. Initially, I would buy a few books and the short version to an MBA or whatever. I was trying not to have to spend time to go to grad school. But after a while, I began to realize that these books, trying to learn how to get an MBA without having one and going through the rigor, was about like trying to learn to cook and just skimming over a recipe. It was just not, I had to realize I had to put in the work. And it also was, again, which is where I am now. It's all this is interesting as we talk about this. It all has led to where I am at this point in my life. Because the other reason that I did it, after realizing that I wasn't going to stop my job, I had to do it. And I had to do my own job that I was being paid for.
Sure.
So this extra had to be extra. It had to be extra, which meant that it should not interfere at all with my, quote, real job.
That's a commitment and a decision.
It was a decision. And I thought, you know what? If I really want this MBA, and even though I had my longer range goals of wanting to teach at a college level, I needed to make the commitment. And if I'm not going to make the commitment, don't do it. Wasting time and money. So talk to my better half. And her comment was, well, sounds reasonable. She also added this other part. You cannot ignore the family. I thought, oh, wow. Okay, so here we go. But I jumped in the water. And it was pretty rigorous. It was the Atlanta campus, and you had to meet 2 or 3 times a week, and then you had study groups. And the courses were typically in the evenings. So even when I had to travel, we made a commitment that you call back in or whatever. We didn't have Zoom back then as much.
No way. Right.
You still had to participate. So it taught me what I'd like to call commitment, what it looked like.
For sure.
It also helped me, and some of my grad students might not like this, but I wasn't so easy on just letting you off in the course because, as you probably know, in grad school, most people expect to get a B or an A. And I had to let them understand in Dr. Wilkerson's class, you will earn your B. You don't just get it for showing up or whatever, because believe me, a lot of the students weren't to do that.
Mhm.
But I felt like if I can do this, and even being older, because I was a little bit older than the
Mhm.
average student, if I can do it, then others can do it as well. It's just a matter of commitment.
Absolutely.
That's ultimately what it came down to. It
All
came down to a matter of commitment, and then segregating myself, disciplining myself so that I could do different compartmental things, family things, primarily my work that I was getting paid to do.
Mhm.
Merck did not care about me getting an MBA necessarily. Uh, and I couldn't use that as an excuse because I had a paper to write or whatever. No, I had to do what I needed to do, and that was extra. So that has helped me to where I am even now.
Excellent. And this is a good place to take our first break. We're going to take our first commercial. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson, author, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of Jerrund Wilkerson Executive Coaching. You can see the crawl, you can see the website on the crawl. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Star, the king of cool and your host of the Jimmy Star Show, the entertainment radio show for all you cool and unique people looking to get a behind-the-scenes peek at what's going on in the entertainment industry. Listen in as me and my cool crowd of co-hosts bring you celebrity guests, new music, and the good times in fashion, entertainment, and pop culture. Right, everybody? Right! Tune in live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on W4CY.com.
Hey, this is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
Hey, this is Rebel Mother. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Welcome back with Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson. He is the author of we'll get back to that in a moment, leadership coach, speaker, and founder of Jerrund Wilkerson Executive Coaching. I want to talk for just a few minutes about your earlier career, because you started out in sales,
Yes.
and you made it to the sales leadership role, leading a big team. Talk about that early career. Why was sales the focus? Was that opportunistic or was it intentional?
It was opportunistic, honestly. I'd like to say it was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was opportunistic, and here's how I'd say that. I practiced pharmacy for about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And I just thought, well, gosh, I should be the person, Kevin, who is helping doctors and others understand these medicines.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be called retail community pharmacy. I was the guy behind the counter, and most people weren't interested in having me tell them about the medicine too much. They just wanted to know how fast you could get it to them and how cheap and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes when you talk to doctors, it was awkward. So I had a few sales reps who came in my pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was a Merck rep, and I was just so impressed with him. And another one was Eli Lilly, and I was just so impressed with them. And to be honest, I liked the fact that they dressed up and looked so sharp and cool and had a chance to run around and not be so confined. And
Yeah.
and then they were the ones who were seeming to make a difference about certain things. I thought, I want to do that. So that's how it came. But I didn't want to just be a salesperson.
Right.
But I knew I needed to start there. So that's how it started. It took me about 6 months actually to get my first interview, because I didn't understand that it was a lot more than just about knowledge.
Right.
I thought it was
Right.
just about knowledge. Had to learn the hard way. It was a lot more than that, including getting the interview. So I learned a lot. So that's how I got into it. And then once I got in, it was the same concept that I just mentioned to you earlier about grad school. Well, if you want to be a manager, you want to be a director, you have to do your first job right first. And so that lesson that I learned about getting that MBA and having to do I had to learn that if I wanted to move up, I needed to do the job I was placed in, not just good, but excellent.
Let me ask you about the book.
Okay.
What sales leaders do? The 22 Habits of an Effective Salesperson, that was published in 2010.
Yes.
What? Two things. What was the reason behind the book, and
Okay.
how much time and effort did it take? And there again is that balance, right?
Right. The purpose behind it, again, and what you'll probably begin to see as I've been moving forward, I have been very intentional. Okay. Once I kind of understood a little bit more about what Jerrund was about,
Right.
leads into a little bit of coaching and all that. Being intentional is, in my opinion, the key to almost anything that we do to be successful. I don't think people just fall into success.
Agreed.
Because if you fall into it, you'll easily fall out of it.
Because you don't know how you got there.
You don't even know how you got there. So when I hear people, oh, well, I didn't expect this, I either don't believe them, or I'm thinking, okay, you'll be a flash in the pan, because you really don't even know what you did to get there. So I don't want to go, because that's about coaching. But anyway, so the book was intentional. Unfortunately, having salespeople, managers, directors, people across the country, I began to see that the things that they were taught, they stopped doing them, or they would just do some of them. And unfortunately, they would end up in my office, some of them. And I'm going to be real candid. The reps didn't, but the managers did. And I didn't like it. I didn't like having to say, Kevin, what happened to you? I just did not.
Right.
And I had one to just say to me, okay, Jerrund, I know why I'm here. So why don't you take me out of my misery and just take my computer, whatever, and let me go. But I even did this to my kids before I would even discipline them. I'd want to talk to them, let them understand why I was doing this, because I never liked it. Well, that's what led to the book, because I even had a son who said, I want to be in sales. And I thought, well, here I am overseeing a sales department in a big company, and we're trying to get people to do the right things and all that. But some of this is just so simple. It really is simple to me. So that's why the book is small. It's nuggets, because I didn't want you to have to read stories. I want you to hear points, and that's why it's 22 habits. But I really, to a large degree, for my son, because I thought, you know what? Here I am overseeing all these people and so forth and so on. And we bring them through and do this. But let's just keep it very, very simple. There's some things you need to do before you make a sales call. There are things you need to do during the sales call, and some things you do after the call. And it's no magic to it. It's you do it, your sales leader. It's doing the process. And then I saw one of my mentors is Vince Lombardi. And one of the things that I liked about what he said is there's no magic to excellence. It's just doing the process.
Hard work,
do the process. And I find that many times so this book, and I've got it here, this book is intended to just say, here's the process. Don't reinvent the wheel, just do the process. And hopefully it'll help you be successful.
Excellent. Tell me, you decided to found, first you started with level 10, right?
Yes. Yes.
And Level 10 still exists.
Yes.
It sounds like it's side by side with the coaching business. Talk about Level 10, what was behind that decision, and describe the company.
Level 10 initially started off by it's consulting. Jerrund Wilkerson leadership coaching is really a subset or a subsidiary, if you want to call it that, of Level 10. I morphed into leadership coaching. Why? Because initially I just wanted to do consulting and help companies, individuals do better.
I think I know where you're going with this.
I just wanted to do that, and I thought, this is a good thing, and I mentioned to you having bands and so forth, and to me, a large portion of what you're doing on stage, it's a little bit of entertaining. So I enjoyed a little bit of that, and you're on stage and you rah rah yay, and you're having people do whatever. But I began to find out not only, and I'm not going to try to knock the pharmaceutical world, but you bring people in for training. And if you don't have follow-up, and you know this, most people will not keep on doing it. Okay. So I found that while I was doing consulting, it wasn't sticking as much as I would like for it to stick. And while it was fun, and while I felt like I was making a difference for many, I'd get all these nice notes and things, but I began to realize that it wasn't sticking. Not the way I'd like for it to.
Right.
So that's
it's about behavior change, right?
Well,
you see behavior change. Right.
That's what I was looking for at the end of the day, behavioral change. And then I went back to my old days at Merck and realized that even as a first-line manager, my job was to work with my salespeople and see behavioral change month over month over month over month, to basically get them to where they did not need me, but they were able to do it themselves. And that's part of what led to some of this. So it's like, well, Jerrund, okay, if you've seen that, why are you doing what you're doing now? And that's nothing against consulting and none of that.
Right.
But again, for me personally, I wanted it to be one-on-one. And that's why I morphed into. So Level 10 is still there because I do one day a month, I do pharmacy, but I don't do it the way most of us know it. I'm not in a store or in a hospital. I do something called medication therapy management. So I talk to patients about their medicines through Humana, United Healthcare, whatever. But I do that because I still do work with College of Pharmacy, University of Georgia, College of Pharmacy at the University of Florida. So it allows me to still be relevant and also satisfy the lady, she who must be obeyed, and all these licenses I have to just keep them sort of going. But so Level 10 that's where that's under that little piece.
Right.
Executive leadership coaching is primarily what I do now. And that's one-on-one. It is one-on-one. I don't do team. My view is everything rises and falls on leadership. So if you can get to the top person and you help that person, then they will then help the next person below them or the people below them. So it cascades down.
Excellent.
So that's how it evolved.
I'm going to ask you about that very question, your philosophy, but we're going to take another break right here. It is 30 minutes after the hour. We'll be back in just a couple minutes with Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show? Well, W4CY Radio makes dreams come true. You can be a radio personality on the #1 ranked internet radio station in West Palm Beach, Florida. We can be heard in 105 countries and all U.S. states. Promote your business, earn up to $10,000 per month and more. It's all up to you. Have fun and be heard. Call 561-506-4031. That's 561-506-4031. Start your radio show now.
Hey, this is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, this is Johnny Three Tears from Hollywood Undead, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
I do whatever it takes to make it break through. Anything I'm face to face with, it's true.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Welcome. We are back with Dr. Jerrund Wilkerson. He is the author of What Sales Leaders Do, the 22 Habits of an Effective Salesperson. He is an executive coach, and he is a speaker and consultant. And I read about your leadership philosophy, and I'd like to read it, and I want you to expand on it a bit. Here,
Okay.
let's see. I read about, within any organization, everything rises and falls on leadership. You just refer to that. Outstanding organizations are led by outstanding leaders. The opposite is also true. First of all, how did you realize that? And it seems like it guides your practice.
I realized it, Kevin, quite frankly, through experience. I think you might have said this, or somebody said it as I was listening, where all successful people have skinned their knees.
Right.
But I think you said something you don't want them to keep on.
That's right.
That. Well, there is a book, and I'm big into books now and reading them. And my dad used to say this: "You show me a person who's never made a mistake, and I'll show you somebody who's never done anything."
That's right. You're exactly right.
He used to say that to me a lot, and I get it now. Sometimes I didn't always understand those nuggets of wisdom, but I get it now. And even as a leadership coach, I find that only about 3 out of 10, which is unfortunate. It's sad.
That's low. Yeah.
That's low. Well, to just put, and that somebody who might be listening might be saying, well, that's just Jerrund's point of view. Let me put some context on it. The Gallup organization does a poll every other year. They look at about 12,000 individuals across all industries. You can just, anybody who's listening, you can just Google it. It used to be, and here was the question that was asked: what percentage of employees are fully engaged?
Oh, yes.
It used to be in the upper 20s. I think the last time I said it, and I said in the 20s, someone challenged me and said it's 33 or 32. But 27, 32, the point is only about 3 people out of 10 are fully engaged at work. And fully engaged also means your top performers. So if that's true, what about that other 70%? Now, when I used to do consulting, I used to try to help organizations understand if you can take that 70% and get about five out of those who are in the middle and whatever. Maybe you can't do anything on the back end, but for those in the middle, that 40% in the middle, they're going to go one way or the other. So if you can get 5% moving, look what that does to your revenue, yada, yada, yada. Well, again, leadership. What I've seen is the organizations who have top leaders, and their attributes, not entitled, and we probably don't have time to get into, but leadership is not a title. It's what you do. Okay. So that's where we went into problems. But the organizations that have top leaders, clear on vision, clear on alignment, clear on getting things done, they're top. The same thing is true, though, what I find with organizations that are not very successful is because the leader is not clear, and it is the leader, not clear about, well, either clarity on vision or clarity on alignment or clarity on execution. And the bottom line is if you don't have a vision, that means you don't know where you're going. So clearly the following,
nor do others.
Nor do others. And then clearly you can't get outcomes, profits, revenue, because they don't even know where they're going. Okay. So, but here's what I find: many leaders resist because they have a leadership title without being held accountable to doing what he or she needs to do to lead effectively. And that's my next book, what effective leaders do. Not just
Excellent.
what an effective leader does, because you can be a leader and not be effective.
What's the expected completion publication date?
I knew you'd ask me that, and
I'll tell you why I asked, but
well, that's okay. My plan is to have this. Quite frankly, the book's already written. I just have not chosen to do the publication part because there's a little more. But I'm looking at a target date of at least third quarter by just going and getting it all out there and getting it done.
Well, you and I are in an organization together
Yes.
for the viewers and the listeners. So I'm sure I'll hear about it. But when you do, I'd like to get you back on.
I would be more than glad to be back on. I'm very proud of it. I keep saying, why don't I pull the trigger? But it's one of those, again, to say I need to be fully committed and ready to do what it takes, because as you know, you got to get out and talk about it and so forth and so on. So wanted to make sure I'm ready for that.
Well, it's cost reward. Are you willing to do what's necessary? And it's okay if you're not today, but sounds like by the fall you will be.
Let's see, you can tell, again, I'm trying to be true to my own principle of being intentional, and don't just randomly do stuff, because if I fall into something and then don't know how I got this, like, that's not repeatable. That's not duplicatable. So
very good. All right. You speak regularly on leadership and organizational culture.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence and patient satisfaction relative to healthcare. Can you talk about those areas a bit?
The net of it all.
I know they're big, broad categories.
Yeah, there are, but that's okay. I'll net it all out. Leadership is important in any arena, for if there are people who either are reporting to you, or if there's an initiative to make a change. And I don't want to go off on that too far, but we're missing a lot of leaders in our country and in the world today, in my view, because leadership means, in essence, and I know you know this, but for context, leadership in itself means vision. It means that you're taking somebody or some group somewhere. That's what a leader is. We used to do a little segment in consulting, and we surveyed about 15 or 20 first graders. We had to pull that down because we didn't get parents' permission, but that's another story.
Yeah,
that's a mistake that I've made, one of those mistakes. But the little kids would say, well, who's the leader? Well, the person at the front of the line, or the person that gets a chance to clean the backboard, or the person who leads us to the cafeteria. First graders know that. Well, a lot of leaders think they should be in the middle, or just on the side, or in the whatever. Anyway, so the point about all this is in healthcare, especially.
Yeah,
we are trained on skills. We are evaluated on skills. Our continuing education that we have to do each year is about skills. It is not about people stuff. It is not about vision. It is not about alignment. It is not about execution. But yet we expect it. So part of what led me to be in this space about healthcare specifically is because I think I can speak the language. It's not that the things that I do is any different than any other leadership. It's really not.
Right.
I won't say it. Let's just say we as healthcare people, we feel we're in an arena by ourselves. I'll just say it that way. Okay. And unless you're able to be one of us, we might not always listen to you as it relates to you trying to help us understand something.
I'm not sure that's just a healthcare thing, but I'm with you. I'm with you.
Well, it's not, but I'm only, it's not. But clearly, in healthcare, we will spit you out if you don't have some healthcare background. And when I say spit you out, not being ugly, you just hear a deaf ear. So I focus on healthcare specifically because I am one of us. I understand it. I didn't get it. Now, there are some entities and things trying to teach leadership. And that's where the emotional intelligence part comes out as well.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence means that we have to be aware of who we are. It's called self-awareness, and there are 5 elements, but I won't get into all that.
Mm-hmm.
But self-aware so that we can then learn how to regulate ourselves. Well, let's just say if I'm a physician and I see you, Kevin, I'm a farmer, whatever, and I see you, and let's say I had a bad day, whatever that is, before I saw you, whatever a bad day is.
Sure.
Well, if I've got this white coat on, my behavior should not be spilling all over you because I had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
So emotional intelligent people, once you're aware of what triggers what, then you have to learn how to self-regulate, which means I need to learn how to manage myself and not do something, say something to you or act ugly towards you and then ask you to forgive me or just let me act ugly. Anyway, and then there's empathy. And then there's interpersonal skills.
Right.
Let's just say there's a lot in it. And in today's environment, leaders need to know how to manage themselves so that they're able to win the trust of their followers. And the last point I'll make about it is once you cannot ever unring a bell.
Yes.
So once you have acted ugly or once you have done something that you can apologize until the cows come home, the recipient of your misbehavior will never forget that. And at the end of the day, what we're supposed to be doing in health care is helping to maintain or restore health. Well, if you don't trust me and you don't like me, then you're not going to follow what I'm saying. And then there's consequences to that behavior, whether it's staff, whether it's peers, and of course, obviously, whether it's patients. So
well, and the obvious connection there is the third bullet: patient satisfaction.
That's it. But and again, what I hear from a lot of my clients, and it is true, it's a challenge. I'll say this carefully, and I'll probably get some bad fan mail for this. But access to information via the internet has helped to create. Let's just say it has helped some people think they know more than they know. And then the physicians, or the healthcare providers, nurses, pharmacists, dentists, physicians, have to contend with that. And you don't get trained again in school on how to contend with somebody who brings you a Google ad and tells you that, well, I know you think I ought to have this, but I read this and why can't I get that? Well, that can lead into patient satisfaction if we don't know how to manage ourselves. We don't know how to not tell the patient go and jump in a hole. Okay, we don't do it. You can't. And sometimes you can, depending on our emotional intelligence makeup, our maturity, we can sometimes say some things that or act a certain way that we should not act, because at the end of the day, here's the story. We've chosen to go into a profession that's about helping. And when people have issues healthcare wise, they're not always the nicest campers in the world.
That's correct. Because
They're
in distress.
They're under stress and all that. That's that. And people used to not demonstrate some of that. Okay, but I think over the last 15, 12, whatever, folks will just come in and they just, as I call it, they just spill right there all over you. And you have to learn how to maintain, and that's that emotional intelligence piece, because patient satisfaction ultimately means that if Dr. Callahan understands how I feel, then I will listen to him.
Right.
And then I will follow the treatment protocol or what he recommends. But if I don't think he does, then I won't. And then since most of us don't pay for our health care, the payers, the insurance companies say, oh, so you didn't like him? No, he wasn't very nice. He didn't, da-da-da-da-da. So that's where all this, it folds all the way back into maintaining and restoring health. And the marketplace has changed. It is a marketplace.
Right.
So we have to change along with it or choose another profession unfortunately, because we're getting into stuff called burnout and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I won't get on. We can talk about that forever. We won't. We don't have time. Okay.
So tell us about the leadership gap. You referred to the leadership gap. Define that and talk about how it impacts negatively and how you might be able to help folks.
The leadership gap basically is that we have thousands of baby boomers who are retiring every day, not every year, every day.
Right.
There is not an intentional effort by many organizations to replace those people, those leaders. That's a huge, huge gap. If you're not intentionally trying to replace them, have a succession plan, and many organizations don't, that will create a problem down the road for the company, for the service that's being provided, and really, depending on what we're talking about, our society. But it has to be intentional. And that's the leadership gap. And then where we're having to pull from the Gen Xers and so forth, the millennials, and they have a little different headset than guys like me, and I understand that. So we have to learn to adjust too. We have to learn to adjust. And so many of the surveys show that leadership is not being taught, not expected. We work on short-term goals, short-term, at best quarterly, but obviously leadership requires intentional effort.
Right.
And everybody's not wired to be a leader. And I think that's the other part. Everybody's not wired to lead. And there's a huge difference between management and leading. So I won't go off on that. But
you're so right on that too.
There's a huge difference. So the leadership gap is knowing what it is first and addressing it proactively rather than wait until we get our hair on fire, and then we have to either start hiring from the outside, and sometimes that's not always good because you got a cultural issue possibly. You're also affecting people internally because you might say, well, gosh, I was wanting that position. Well, now you bring somebody from the outside, you might say, well, it's no need for me to keep on working at this because I might get surprised again. Leaders understand that mindset, but we don't have a lot of that going on. So the gap is awareness of what leadership is, proactively addressing it through succession planning, and ensuring. I love Jim Collins' book, Good to Great.
Yes.
Sometimes
I could hear that influence there.
Sometimes we have to take the wrong people off the bus. And we have a hard time sometimes doing that because
agreed.
But see, good, effective leaders know how to do what they need to do, and sometimes have to make some of the hard decisions if you're looking long term. So that's the gap.
All right, 2 questions left. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it is.
Who in the viewing or listening audience should reach out to you and why?
I would say, and trying to be true to my focus, anybody who's in healthcare,
right,
who have people reporting to them, they need to consider a leadership coach. Why? Because you can't see 360. It is not how we're trained, but yet we're put in positions for different reasons. Maybe we're good at doing something. That does not make you a leader. Just because you can make a great sandwich does not mean that you can be a great chef.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
So, and I think we don't always understand that. It's really pretty simple, but it's simple because of where I sit now. I had to have a coach. Little did I know. Quite frankly, I was initially kind of offended.
That's good.
Why do I need a coach? I mean, I'm good. No, there's so much I didn't understand and so much I didn't see. And if you're not trained in it, then let's just say many times there's not a lot of forgiveness when you step in caca. Okay. So if you have it, the bottom, I said it before, but I'll say it again. Anybody who's in healthcare, who have people reporting to them, they oversee people. A coach is highly, highly recommended.
Excellent.
That's it.
And they can reach you by going to www.jerrund, JerrundWilkerson.com. Correct?
That's
Easiest
it.
way?
That's it. That is the easiest way. We could do emails, we can do phone numbers, but that's probably the easiest way, because if you go on that website, every page has a place, contact me.
Perfect.
And of course, I will always respond. Some people say within 24 hours. Well, I cut it in half. I'll respond within 12 hours, because typically it means that day or the next day.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Jerrund. I really appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time and your advice.
Well, Kevin, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to catching up with you a little later.
Sounds good. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. This is a show about business and business challenges. If you've got concerns about the growth of your company, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio, or drop me a note. One of the easiest email addresses is kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Same, you could go to that website. Our company is Winning Incorporated, part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not a fit for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you, as always, to Roxy for another job well done on the back end. We'll be back at it again next Monday, March 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll do it all over again. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.